I built an overgrown, ruined castle inspired by Studio Ghibli. This is Studio Ghibli, renowned across the globe for producing masterpiece after masterpiece of inspirational handcrafted storytelling. And this is Minecraft, a game about cubes.
I am Steve.
Using the Conquest Reforged mod, I intend to recreate some of my favourite scenes from Studio Ghibli's best films. And I'm beginning with the film that started it all, Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro. Although Castle of Cagliostro released in 1979, before Studio Ghibli was officially founded, it was the first feature-length film written and directed by my favourite grumpy old man, Hayao Miyazaki. You can already feel the classic Ghibli magic throughout the film and its world building. From the hand-drawn watercolour landscapes that are an icon of Ghibli style, to the seemingly effortless motion of the characters and their emotions, you can tell that Mr. Miyazaki had his hands all over this project. The ruins of Cagliostro Castle sit on the shores of a large lake in the mountains. Once again, I'm using World Painter to achieve this. World Painter allows me to effortlessly scoop out a huge lake with gently inclining shores, leading up to a large mountainous backdrop. As you might expect from a film called The Castle of Cagliostro, the film is in fact set in a castle in Cagliostro. However, that title refers to this castle. Whereas I'm building the ruins of this castle, which was burnt down in a fire. In classic Ghibli style, nature has taken over this European-style palace, leaving some of the most romantic ruins in film history. Although my plan was to build something inspired by this place, I couldn't stop myself from taking screenshots from every angle of the building and feverishly attempting to plan it out in its entirety. With all my references at hand, I could finally start building Cagliostro Castle.
He wrote about a form of Japanese cartoon stating anime is a prime example of why 2 nukes just wasn't enough.
Like always, I kick things off by using a brightly coloured block to trace out the ground plan of the castle. This helps me get an idea for size and layout before committing to actually building. The Conquest Reforged mod is full of decorative nature blocks, different leaves, grasses, flowers, and all the rest of it. And for a while I've really wanted to start a project that made use of all these blocks. The Castle of Cagliostro has this incredible blend of realism and fantasy. It's heavily inspired by real European architecture, but is exaggerated just enough to feel like it belongs in a storybook. The towering keep somehow still standing, and completely overgrown with ivy. The whole building is festooned with balconies and windows, which hint at its elegance before fire and nature stripped it bare. The scene the castle features in is a sobering calm moment between action scenes. Miyazaki uses the scenery of the castle to create a brilliant nostalgic feeling, while the main character reminisces being there many years prior. To capture the same feeling in my build, it was important to first get the colours and composition right. Miyazaki's castle is incredibly bright, and that is intentional. If I'd used dark leaves and bricks, I'd be in danger of making the castle look sombre and depressing, which could be cool but would strike the wrong tone. It was important to me to try and make the castle as picturesque as possible, to try and hit on that nostalgic tone. As soon as I had completed the basic shape of a castle, I came in with the World Painter brush tool and began adding cracks and weathering to the walls. Because this build focuses entirely on the castle itself, a building that doesn't even have a roof, cramming as much detail onto these walls as possible is essential to give the build its character. It was honestly a relief to start adding greenery to the walls. To say that the build looked bare before this would be an understatement. The castle's mysterious and nostalgic identity comes largely from what the vines and trees cover up and hide from the viewer. The castle also reminds me of the follies and fake ruins rich landowners of the 18th and 19th century would build to add interesting features to their gardens. Designed specifically to be picturesque and to stir the imagination, in many ways Miyazaki's castle is designed to be a folly, despite being a quite natural ruin in the film. Not gonna lie, I really enjoyed building the interior of the castle. Being able to cover everything with moss and really make use of all those different decorative blocks was great fun. I added broken pillars, empty fireplaces, and stairs before covering it all with plants and debris. Outside, I added the wall and gate where Lupin parks his car in the film. Even though the castle is in a state of ruin, it's made clear that the grounds are still tidy and taken good care of by a groundsman, who incidentally isn't very happy about the main characters snooping around the castle. I added back a few trees and started sculpting the garden into something more closely resembling the film. I was eager to recreate the famous shot of the main characters driving up to the castle, so I once again used the World Edit brush tool to paint a path all the way around the lake. I even included the bridge they drive over. To wrap up the garden, I stuck a pond in front of the castle, just to add a bit more variety. I once again got to use a bunch of those cool nature blocks added by Conquest Reforged. Last of all, I completed the scene by building Lupin's famous Fiat 500. To say I was proud of his car would be an understatement.
見てください。親父が水やってますよ、芝生に。上から見てるとは夢にも思ってないですよね。ほら、そこにある草で絡まってる家なんて全然違うでしょ。もう草が絡まってるでしょ。この屋根からね、ね、その右の屋根から隣の屋根に飛び移って駆け抜けて、その緑色の壁があるでしょ、緑と青っぽい、そのところに飛びついてあの配管をよじ登ってですね、あの屋根の上を走ってさらに向こうのビルに行くっていうのをアニメーションでやったら面白いでしょ。それで電線の上歩けたら向こう側にも行けるはずなんですよ。もう上から見ると本当に全部むき出しにいろんなものが見えるんですよ。あのブロック塀の上を走り抜けることできるはずなんですよ。そうやっただけでね、つまんない街だと思ってるとかとんでもない映画の舞台になるんですよ。そうやって見ると結構面白いでしょ。面白いんですよ。はるか向こうまで行けそうな気がするよね。いけんじゃないかな。